What's up, everyone? Gonna do a video on how to make watch lists and find names to play throughout the week or the day. Um, Hopefully this is able to, help out with finding names that you want to trade, because it's always important to have kind of like a focus list throughout the week or the day of your trading. And for me, I only trade with, a plan. I don't look at names throughout the day, and I don't really care what other names that I'm not really planned to trade are doing. I like to have a list of names that I'm watching for that day. If they don't present an entry, then I don't want to trade, right? I want to make sure that all my trades are planned out and I'm not just looking at random names that are moving throughout the day and trying to chase those. I want to have my entries planned out perfectly, in a sense, and make sure that I'm kind of staying, keeping my attention on those names. So yeah, here's how that's done. So I'll always start out my analysis with a big watch list on sectors. So what that means is I basically have a huge watch list on TradingView. You can do this on any other platform that you use, but this is my watch list here on TradingView. This will also be linked in the description of this video and in the Discord, so you can copy this if you want to give it a look. But this has all the main things that you need to look for in the market. So these names, I mean, this doesn't have every single name that you want. So like for example, I have this categorized for EV, so electric vehicles. This obviously doesn't have every single electric vehicle company, but I like to have the ones that I want to trade. So like for example, the ones that are tradable, the ones that I know that move pretty well and that I can trade options on, obviously, and that I have experience trading. I like to trade names that I know how they move and whatnot, right? So yeah, this is my list. So first of all, let's just go through it very quickly. I have all the indices, so you obviously want to know how the market is moving. You have SPY, which is the S&P 500. This is going to be kind of your market gauge. It's going to be kind of how the whole market is moving. So um, depending on if the market is red or green, I'm probably going to look to short or long. QQQ is the tech index, so you always want to know if tech is stronger or weaker. Usually when tech is stronger, there's more momentum in the market. The Dow is going to be more industrial names, names that have a little bit more value into them, so they're not priced as kind of much due to like future growth. They're more kind of value names. They have very solid earnings, solid companies. Most of the kind of economy relies on those names. They're very solid. Then we have IWM, which is a small cap names. You always want to kind of get an idea of on what IWM is doing, um, to kind of give you an idea on small caps and kind of more of the momentum names. And we have VIX, which is the volatility index. So you always want to get an idea on what the VIX is doing, especially as an options trader. Whenever VIX is below 30, into kind of the $20 range, the options are probably going to be priced pretty fairly. Whenever you have VIX a little bit higher, that means obviously more volatility, and most likely your options or options in the market are going to be priced a little bit higher, so you want to watch out for that. So now that we have kind of this main list, we can go over a little bit more of the macro of this watch list. So we have FANG names. You always want to keep an eye on those. These make up the most of the indices, right? So most of the market is made up of these really, really big names, or the probably some of the biggest names in the market by market cap. And you obviously have Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Google. You always want to know what these big names are doing. If they are leading and they're pushing very well, then you have good momentum in the market. And you always, again, want to keep an eye on those because you want them to lead. Then you obviously have electric vehicles. You want to keep an eye on this sector as well. You have banks, blockchain, right? So anything related to crypto. I have credit. I have weed names, solar, charging, fuel cell, airlines, cruises, health, vaccine names, right? So healthcare like slash vaccine names, retail, chips, sports betting, software, China names, and then a list of all the actual ETFs for the sectors. If I'm just trying to go through things really quickly, you can see which sectors are red, which sectors are green throughout the day, or if you're charting, like let's say this is on a Sunday before the week, I'm always going to look to see which sector was strong to close out the week. So we had IBB, which is biotech, XRT, which is retail, some of the stronger movers, XLK, which is the technology sector, Very, very strong close compared to, let's say, XLU, which is utilities, was a little bit weaker, and XLE, which is energy, being some of the only two sectors that closed red. So I'll probably either look to short these or just stay away from these, depending on obviously what the market is doing. So that can kind of give you an idea on maybe some sectors to watch, just scrolling through these. But yeah, that's just kind of like a rough draft. You don't need to look through all of these, but this is what I do. So to find the names that I'm going to trade, usually I'm always going to start my analysis on the market. So I'm always going to see what the market is doing. For example, if SPY is starting to break out, which it kind of looks like it's starting to do, it might not have to continue to push or whatever it's going to do. I'm going to keep an eye on it, but it does look like this wants to start breaking out, right? It broke over this 50 EMA, over this trend line. QQQ, same thing, starting to break out a little bit. So I'm most likely going to look to continue to watch tech names and see if those are going to have momentum for this week. So I'm going to be more focused on tech names. So I'll go and look to see, for example, what the Facebook setup looks like, Apple, Amazon, Google, how these are setting up, and I'll probably look to find some levels for some of these names. So like Google, for example, is kind of starting to break out. This one hasn't moved as much yet, and it looks like if it breaks over this like pivot here on 2730, it's probably going to continue higher, and I can see it at 2761, maybe 2834. So this would be a name I'd add to the watch list right away, and I'll literally just scroll through all these names. So there's a lot of charting, a lot of just looking to see which names look the best, and this is the watch list that I use for all of it. So there isn't one screener that I kind of use to find, I guess, everything. This is mainly the way that I find all the names that I'm going to play. There is a screen and a couple of more things that you can do to find some names that I do as well. But this is kind of the main thing that I do. So again, I'll keep going through these names. I'll look at Netflix to see what if this looks like it has like an area that makes sense for me to maybe get in. It doesn't really look the best to me for like a solid entry, so I'll wait for it to develop more. Google is probably my favorite from the FANG names. Microsoft actually looks pretty good as well as it's kind of breaking out. If it can get over this pivot here, this actually looks pretty good for an entry. Then again, I'll continue to go through things, right? Like Tesla, if this breaks over 921, could be a possible entry. It doesn't look amazing for trade yet. I'll continue to see if this wants to continue to develop. But this is how I'll do it. I'll just go through the best setups. Like for example, Riot's breaking out. This could be one that I'm gonna watch, right? As like Bitcoin maybe starts breaking out. You want to give an eye at how banks are looking, and you just scroll through the list. Solar was a little bit weaker, but maybe if TAN, the ETF for solar, starts breaking out, I'll start looking at some of these names. ENPH was one that I found that looked pretty solid as it was kind of breaking out from this area. And then again, you'll continue to go through another sector that looked really good to me that I found during this week was the chip sector. So I'll look at something like AMD. Looks like it's about to break out if it can get over this trend line. One of the only names that hasn't, right? Like for example, Nvidia already broke out. And that's one of the names that I'll pay attention to, right? So if you can get over this pivot 115, that could be nice for an entry in my opinion. So yeah, that's how I'll go over it. And again, if things are setting up to the downside, I'll look more for names that are weaker, but now everything looks to be kind of wanting to push out. We'll see if that obviously holds true. But I'll always kind of look throughout the day as well to see what is happening, which sectors are weak or stronger. But most of the time, everything is pre-planned. If we're not going to continue to move on the Monday following the market open, then I'm probably just gonna look to see what names are going to be weaker or which names are kind of rejecting, I guess, trend lines. Like for example, if stock market's going to be weaker, you can even trade AMD puts if this fails to, I guess, break this trend line, right? Because last couple of times it did that, it gave a pretty nice move to the downside. So um, yeah, that's kind of the idea there. And again, I'm just gonna keep going through these and finding to see if there's like any really nice setups. Usually most of the nice setups I'll kind of already know in my head, I guess, once I see them. They look really good to me, and it's just kind of like from experience, I know that these ones are some of the names that I want to trade. Again, we have sports betting, some other names that look like they're pretty decent, and I'll just keep scrolling through these, see if there's any areas that make sense to me. There's nothing really that looks great, maybe CRM over this pivot, but that's kind of what I'll like to do. So I already know what I want to look for in some of these names, and you need to know that as well, because you can look at how many ever stocks you want, but there's not going to be a screener that tells you if the setup is nice or not, right? You need to know if the setup looks good, and it all depends on how you trade. Like for example, if you're looking for bottom ticks, you can look for double bottoms, anything like that, triple bottom. If you're looking for breakouts, look for anything that's close to a pivot that looks like it's about to break out, higher volume, any of that. Um, any of that is pretty good, right? So there's not gonna be like one magical screener that's gonna tell you, but there is one that's pretty close, and that can give you an idea on some very strong names or very weak names. So this is a screen I like to do on either TradingView or FinViz. For the purpose of this video, we'll stick to TradingView. So I go on my screener here. I have either 52-week highs or the volume leaders, which is a scan that I really, really like to do. And what this does, or what this scan is it's anything that closed the day green, and it had more than 1% relative volume, or sorry, not 1%, more than 100% relative volume. So anything more than 100% relative volume, 110%, 120%. So anything trading above the average volume, because anything that has higher volume is usually going to continue to move pretty well. So I'll sort them by volume like this. Let me just make sure it's refreshed. Okay, it is. And then I'll kind of scroll through this list. So for example, MULN. This isn't a name that I would usually trade, right? I don't really like to trade or get involved with small caps. Something like Neo that's a little bit more liquid, huge volume. This is definitely one that I'm going to keep an eye on. It had a very good volume on Friday, 128 million volume compared to usually it trades at 108, so that's like a 20% increase, 20-30%. So it had a lot of volume. You can clearly see that here, right, with that candle, higher than average. So if that continues into next week, this could be a name that I'm watching. It's kind of starting to break out of a downtrend, right? So I have like an area that I'm watching for. And this is a screen that I really like to do. So I'll look at all these names. Apple, another name that looks pretty good. I already have this one charted out. You can see it had a good amount of volume, definitely above average. It's right at the 50 EMA, so if it can break through, it can definitely continue higher. It also has a little bit of a gap to fill. And this is how I'll find all these things, right? But again, you need to know what to look for, or else you're just looking at a bunch of stocks for no reason. So find out what your strategy is and what you're kind of looking for in some of these names, and then you'll know exactly what to look for, right? And like when you see it, you'll probably add it to your watches. So these are the two things I do. There's actually one more thing that I'm gonna go over in a second, but you just continue looking at some of these names, right, that had really nice volume, and then you're going to find the setup similar to what I did here with these names. This is how I find more names that aren't already on this watch list. So anything that I don't really have my eye on just yet, I can find some names like, for example, HPQ. I would have never looked at the stock, but it actually looks very good as it held into the gap, and it's kind of starting to break out with really big volume right there. So something like this I would do, right? And I would add this to my watch list. And then at the end of the week or whenever, like the end of the day, I'll compile a watch list like this. So I'll have my possible long ideas, my possible short ideas, and then from there, I'm gonna, of, depending on how the market is opening, I'm gonna add all these names to my trades list. Again, I'm not gonna add every single one of them. I'm gonna add only a couple, so I'm gonna focus on like most of the time like 5 to 8 stocks. So here yesterday, sorry, not yesterday, Friday, I had 5 stocks that I was focusing on, along with Tesla, so 6. I added this to my positions tab, and I only ended up trading Tesla because it looked the best to me and it made the best move, and it gave us a very nice return, right? So that's basically all you need. You don't need to really look at like 20 different stocks in one day. Keep it kind of small and pay attention to those names. Make sure that you know exactly where your entry should be and kind of wait for those entries, right? Don't look to chase these names. If they made a move and you missed that entry, wait for a retest of your entry area, or wait for obviously something else to develop before jumping in. There's so many opportunities in the market. You don't need to chase anything. Stay focused on the names that you liked and did the analysis on, and from there you should be all set to have a good watch list every single day or every single week, whenever you like to chart, or whenever you like to get prepared, whatever. This is the way that I kind of do it. Last thing that I want to go over is there's a FinViz scan that works pretty well. It's just a 52-week high scan. You can do this um, on TradingView as well or any other platform. So I just look for new highs, anything that made a new high, and I'm mainly like looking just based off of the sector, right? So for example, like healthcare, AbbVie made new high. I'm also sorting it by volume, so I'm always gonna have highest volume first because those are usually more liquid. So healthcare made a new high, a 52-week high. Utilities, healthcare. So mainly I see already two healthcare stocks with really good volume, three healthcare stocks, four, five, six healthcare stocks in the top 20 with high volume. So I'm gonna go and see the healthcare ETFs. So like for example, that's XLV, and then you have UNH being the top, Johnson Johnson, Pfizer. So those names, since the healthcare ETF is making new highs, or most healthcare names are making new highs, um, those are going to be some of the names that I'm going to be focused on, right? So like UNH, I already have this charted out. If it can break into like the all-time high, then this can definitely be a nice trade. So that's how I'll spot a couple more names that I maybe don't have my eye on just yet. And then again, look at Pfizer, Johnson Johnson. Those were a couple names that were at the top of the holdings. And if they look good, then I'll look to trade those. And that's another way that you can look at some names. Anything making new 52-week highs, especially sector-wise, if a lot of names in a specific sector are making new highs, like for example, oil, the past 1 to 2 months has been making new 52-week highs almost every single day. That would have obviously helped you find some oil names. Like for example, if you went to the energy and oil ETF, XLE, put holdings, you would have found that all of these names are basically making new highs for the last like 1 to 2 months. Obviously, they started drawing down a little bit ago, but for this like huge run right here, you would have seen new highs almost every single day and been able to catch some of these moves. Again, you don't want to chase these. You want to have like a solid entry area, and that probably could have been here, right? Like I had this one charted out. This could have been a great trade, playing up into the highs. Um, and yeah, you can obviously go through all of the all the stocks that are in these holdings. But yeah, that's a pretty simple way of kind of finding watch lists. There's obviously other things that you can do to find different names, but again, you don't really want to focus too much on doing a bunch of random things. Just find whatever strategy works for you. For me, it's just looking at different sectors and finding sector strength. Like I said, it looks to me like tech is the strongest while I did my analysis um, of this day, and I'm just focusing on that, right? So anything in the FANG area, anything that's kind of related to semiconductors, because those were pretty strong, um, right? Anything software related was very strong. You can see that here. China names were very strong as well, so you can watch those. And yeah, that's how I like to do my analysis. And again, if the trend is going to flip and we're going to see some red on tech names, then I'll look to short tech names, right? And this is the best way to know which sectors are strongest, which sectors are weak, and whatnot. Hopefully this helped out. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments or don't be afraid to DM me. And yeah, I'll put the watch list in the link, and also FinViz in the description. All right, hope you guys have a good rest of